Lovely. Okay. Well, hello there, Jay, and it's really lovely to see you. It's been a while since we met, and I know you were deliberately wanted to come and talk to me at the SIRPA conference that we ran in May. And your recovery story was so inspiring. This is why I just thought, we've got to get you on this, get you recording your talk. And you just told me that you haven't actually recorded your story yet. So this is the first time you've actually really been able to explain it. And I know you're really keen to use your recovery to help other people as well.
Yeah, that's right. The SIRPA conference I really enjoyed. I'd only just fully recovered and been able to listen to all the doctors and see them in person that
Yeah.
helped me with recovering was incredible, really. Like meeting my heroes in real life.
I bet. And I know everybody was impressed when they met you. I think it was my husband that dragged you along to me, didn't he?
That's right.
You've got to listen to this story, he's saying. Well, okay. So I know you had sort of long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome. Is that right? Do you want to just start? Maybe let us know what stage in your life did this start? What were you like before then? What was going on in your life at the time, etc.? Do you want to start there?
Yeah. So at the time, I was 21 years old. I was studying maths and computer science at the University of Manchester. And I was an elite freestyle skier competing all over Europe and in America as well. So I was working really, really hard, getting first class grades at university, pushing my skiing as hard as I could, trying to keep up with everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, one night after a ski competition, I caught COVID and never really fully recovered from that.
And when was this?
This was around February in 2023.
Right. Okay. So this is the way into when long COVID had started.
Yeah, I didn't even know what long COVID really was, or ME, CFS. I'd
Mm.
vaguely heard of it. I knew people with it, but I never really understood what the illness was. And I felt
Mm.
quite naive when suddenly it was in my body and I was like, oh God, this is
Um,
horrible.
yes. Yeah. And I know it did definitely, it all flattened you at one point, but how soon did that happen? I mean, were you just a little bit unwell at first and you were fighting to get back, or what was the situation?
So the initial virus was fairly mild. I've had worse flus before. I'd had worse flus like a couple of months before that COVID infection. But
Right.
after 3 or 4 days, those initial virus symptoms of sore muscles, sore throat, headaches, runny nose, feeling really wiped out and fatigued, they sort of went away. But I was
Mhm.
left with the most debilitating, crushing fatigue, and it was quite scary. I thought this isn't how my body's supposed to be healing. And
No.
every day I felt the same as the previous, sleeping all day, just not being able to get out of bed. It was really tough.
Wow. Yeah. And you had your dad there looking after you by the sound of it.
Initially, I tried to stay at university.
Right.
For a couple of months, I did make very minute improvements. I even tried to go abroad and ski. But while I was abroad, I had a close friend get in a really serious ski accident, and that was quite traumatic for me.
Yeah.
And when I returned back to university, I really started to go into the boom and bust cycle of chronic fatigue syndrome, where I'd overexert myself. And then the next day, I would feel really, really awful for a couple of days before returning to a baseline.
Mm.
And each week, with each cycle, that baseline would get lower and lower and lower. So eventually, I think this was maybe 3 months after the initial infection and 1 month after my friend's serious ski accident, I I couldn't even walk to the bathroom in my uni house. I had to crawl
Oh,
to the toilet from my bed. And it was at that point that my parents had to come pick me up and take me home and look
yeah.
after me.
Yeah. That sounds sensible. And obviously absolutely necessary. And it went on for quite some time. Do you want to describe that in give us an idea of what life was like then for you? Because that's really extreme change from being a fit young man doing so much. And but like you say, yeah, I love the way I'm hearing you explain. I was pushing yourself so much. You mentioned about the trauma that you had. Obviously, now you have a really good understanding about what was causing, leading up to this point. But how did things go when you moved home?
Well, I thought it would be the start of my recovery, moving home and getting my parents to look after me. I didn't have the pressure of university. I put my studies on suspension. My dad sorted out my work and put that on hold. So it was purely recovery time. There was no responsibilities or stresses. But each week I would try and do, say, 100-meter walk down the street or get out in the garden. But I'd always end up crashing. I was in denial of where my baseline was. And I was really getting into this boom and bust cycle and not being able to get out of it. And my health just kept deteriorating and deteriorating. And it was quite a scary time because I wasn't sure how far it was going to go and when I was going to get better.
Yes.
And yeah, so when I was really bad, a day for me would look like I would only leave my room to eat food. On a bad day, my parents would have to wheelchair me from the bed to the toilet. I couldn't walk more than 3 or 4 meters at a time. The mental fatigue was awful. I really struggled to talk to anyone or have any human presence. A lot of light and sound sensitivity. Feeling like gravity was 10 times stronger. It was really tough. Like almost the entire day spent in bed resting, and even that was tiring.
Just doesn't make sense, does it, for a condition to suddenly do this to somebody, and especially who's been fit and able not long before. That must have been such a scary time for you and your family.
Yeah, it was. I was following social media pages of other people with it, and I was hearing lots about research of blood clots and inflammation and persistent viral and Lyme's disease. And I kind of figured, oh, there's something in my blood, there's something in my brain deep down. Maybe one day I'll get to heal. But I was just waiting for a day where I'd start healing, just not really knowing how to get better. There was no help from the NHS too much or doctors. They weren't providing too many answers.
Right. So did you see many specialists? I mean, they would presumably have had to come out to see you at home.
Yeah, I had home visits from long COVID clinic, an NHS long COVID clinic. They would come each week and they did the usual activity management and pacing that every CFS patient is told to do. And that was really the only thing they could help me with. They introduced some meditation and breathing exercises, which was quite nice, but it never really improved my energy levels. I was still 95, 97% bedbound throughout the day.
Oh dear. Yeah. So nothing there to show you that there was a chance of recovery, or that, at your age, to think that you were going to be like this for goodness knows how long. And I think that's sometimes the trouble with social media as well, isn't it? And even people being told, well, you'll never recover, you've got to learn to live with it. Did you actually come across any of that or not?
Yeah, a lot of times, but I was still quite young and stubborn, and I always knew I was going to get better, even if there wasn't any evidence of that in my body or out there in scientific trials.
Yeah, yeah. So nothing that generally you tried up to that point was helping in any way. So when did the change occur?
Well, I had to endure about 8 months of being very severely debilitated with CFS before I discovered, well, I didn't discover it, but a friend got in touch and he had to go through my parents. Anybody had to do that because I was in bed so ill. They had to protect me from doctors or friends or anything like that. So initially it was an old ski coach who got in touch with me and got in touch with my dad and talked to my dad through the mind-body approach that SIRPA talks about, and so many others.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, so presumably he needed to really do a lot of research. Did he say anything to you at first, or did he only talk to you about it once he'd really decided that this was something worth approaching, going through?
Yeah, my dad did a lot of research while I was ill to try and help me and understand what's going on. And at that time, he was sort of going down the rabbit hole of all the mind body stuff and figuring that there's something in there, but he just wasn't quite sure. And being able to
Yeah.
talk to someone who'd been through it and recovered was important.
Mm.
And he passed on all the stuff, all the mind body stuff to my GP, my uncle who's a doctor, my sister, my mum, and the NHS long COVID clinic to double check that it was legit and it wasn't going to make me worse and there was
Yeah.
something in it. And they all backed it up.
Great.
So when my dad came to me saying, "This is what we're going to do," even though I'd heard of the mind body stuff and it's very controversial in the ME CFS world. There's a lot of
Yeah.
maltreatment of patients in the past with mind body stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But this mind body stuff was different. And with all my support team backing it up, I sort of borrowed their belief. And
Good way of
yeah,
putting it. I love that.
I
Borrowed, I believe.
borrowed their belief and started with some of the techniques.
Yeah. Good for you. Fantastic. And how did that go? Did you, presumably, because of the fatigue, you couldn't spend long doing anything initially, reading a book or doing anything in particular. So how did it go to start with?
Yeah, so the initial phone call, it was with this guy called Gary from New Zealand, and he'd
Mm-hmm.
gone through long COVID as well and fully recovered
Fab.
and researched all of it. He'd gone on a course to learn about it more. He'd read loads of books about it. And the
Mm-hmm.
initial phone call I had with Gary was less than 10 minutes long because I
Mm-hmm.
was so fatigued. I didn't talk in it. I just mumbled yes or no a few times, and he really calmly and gently explained that my body was in a state of fight or flight. My
Mm-hmm.
nervous system was stuck thinking there was some damage, underlying structural damage when there wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he explained that once my nervous system re-regulates itself, that I could fully recover.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me for that first week or two, to any time I felt a symptom, instead of view it out of fear of a crash coming, to just accept it with no judgment
Yeah.
and just say a little affirmation. And that affirmation was, "Everything is okay. Thank you, brain, for your concern, but my body is fine and you can relax. You don't need to protect me so much now."
And you can really tell when somebody's actually used the affirmations like that because you can say it word for word.
Yeah, it was a very nice affirmation.
Yeah.
And it was a small thing that I could handle. So even though I was so fatigued and so ill, I could I could tell myself that a few times a day, as
Yeah.
much as was possible.
And how did you feel at the end of that first 10-minute call, out of interest?
Um, I don't remember, to be honest. I was still
Right.
very ill. I think I was still skeptical,
Yeah.
but I still had that borrowed belief of everyone in my support network
Mm-hmm.
backing this up.
Yeah. Fab. Fab. So how long between appointments did you have? How long before you started noticing a difference?
So in that first week, I did feel a little bit better, a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more alert. I wouldn't walk any further, but I just felt a little less bad. And I
Right.
had a short phone call with my friends, but then it was barely 10, 15 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
the next day I had a crash and I was, yeah, so fatigued, wasn't able to speak, meals in bed. It was tough. And I thought, this isn't right. This mind body stuff isn't going to work. I'm having a crash because of energy usage. It's in my body.
Yeah.
And I had those doubts and I told my dad about it. And he explained that it didn't invalidate what Gary was saying about the mind body stuff. It supported it, that the
Yeah.
brain has learnt these neural pathways and it's responding to energy use with fatigue and viral biological protective systems.
And still the belief that actually you couldn't talk to your friends, you couldn't do this because you weren't well enough. So
Mm,
triggered. I've noticed you've said the word crash a number of times. And as we know, words have an impact on our body as well. And it's a very common word used within the chronic fatigue syndrome world. Is that something you began to use less, or did you were you aware of the impact that was having?
At the time, I wasn't, but the main thing, like the golden rule for ME/CFS, is pacing and not doing too much activity to avoid a crash. A crash being where you overexert yourself and the following day you feel awful.
Yeah.
And to only use little spoons of energy each day and not doing too much. So that's what I did. I was radically pacing. I'd pace every step, every thought. And if I did too much one day, I'd have to do less. I'd have to go to sleep. And I didn't realize that was producing fear in me. But when I started talking to Gary and he started explaining the fear loop and the body responding out of fear instead of taking a step back and understanding that it's accidentally learned these responses when there's no underlying structural damage. That was huge for me.
Yeah, yes, I can imagine. Yeah, because all this fear, and pacing can be good unless it's done in a way of really focusing. Well, like, can I do one more step today or one more minute of something? Because then there's that increased focus on symptoms, isn't there? And being cautious, and again, that's all fear-inducing.
It was quite counterintuitive for me because a crash was really horrible.
Yeah.
It was so debilitating. I'd lose any little freedoms I did have in my day. I wouldn't be able to go on my phone, wouldn't be able to talk to my parents for even a few minutes. It would be really difficult to eat and go to the toilet. And I usually wouldn't be able to shower if I was in a crash. So pacing, I thought, I have to stop the crash, so I have to pace.
Yeah.
But it was a shift in belief almost. It was counterintuitive. And I thought there's no way the way I think about my symptoms could change a biological condition. But it did in the end.
Yeah.
And taking a step back and rather than pacing too much, just understanding why the fatigue and the symptoms were there and that I wasn't in danger and I was safe.
Yeah.
It was really important to do that.
Yeah, really having that self-compassion and like you're saying, sort of being curious about your symptoms, reinforcing it with positive affirmations as well. That gradually started to reprogram your brain.
Yeah. And it was 2 weeks after my initial phone call with Gary. It was one day in my bed and the cognitive symptoms that I had, all that brain fog and cognitive fatigue that stopped me being able to talk and think and feel, it completely lifted. I know it's not normal, but for me, it happened in a day and it was incredibly profound.
Wow. Yes.
I remember it so clearly, and I spent the whole night wide awake because for 8 months I hadn't had my brain and suddenly I had it back. It was incredible. Like, yeah, the most profound day of my life.
I can imagine. No wonder you've remembered it.
Yeah, I was completely shocked. It went against everything I knew and believed about this illness and what was happening in my body. And suddenly it lifted. It was surreal. And I didn't have a crash the next day or the following day or at all that week. I was able to maintain that. And at that point,
even though you haven't slept very well that night.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of sleep issues throughout my time with the illness, but at that time I was still bedbound. I hadn't gone down the steps. I hadn't gone to the kitchen yet. So that was the next stage of recovery for me. But after having that very real cognitive evidence of a symptom lifting, I was fully back in. I didn't have to borrow so much belief. I had that evidence in my body that this can work. This is how recovery can happen.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it, to be able to have your own experiences. Like, so you can borrow the beliefs from other people. You can read all the evidence or hear or whatever. I don't know if you listen to any of the education rather than reading anything, but that's very different from actually experiencing it yourself. And we always encourage people to note that down so that if ever they have doubts down the line, they look at, yes, but this happened, that happened.
Yeah, because for almost a year straight, any exertion I did was punished with a crash. I had
Mm.
no evidence of being able to do something and not have a crash afterwards.
Yeah.
I barely had any symptoms go away. They all stayed there for such a long time.
So how did you get over that next stage then?
Well, now I had my brain back and was able to think. I could listen to recovery stories. I could read about the science behind neuroplasticity and how the brain could produce these symptoms without underlying structural cause, and how the nervous system can control so much of the body.
Yeah, fabulous.
And I was able to slowly increase my activity.
Hmm.
And each time I slowly increased it, I wouldn't get a crash and I'd feel safer and safer doing physical exertion. I'd say my affirmations. I'd understand the fear loop of how the nervous system can get stuck in a loop of producing symptoms and then thinking the symptoms are dangerous or producing more symptoms.
Yeah.
And the next part of the recovery was equally as important. It was the emotional side of it. So it's understanding that sometimes repressed emotions, if you push too many emotions down, they can overspill and come out as physical symptoms instead of emotional, like emotions.
Protecting you.
Yeah, exactly. And I was very open to that because when my friend had a serious ski crash, which affected me a lot, it was I was improving a little bit, and then he had his crash, and then I started getting worse. So I
Right.
always knew there could be something there, but I never had a way of knowing that. No one ever told me, "Oh,
No.
do this and you'll get better." So Gary explained to me, it's Nicole Sachs' journal speak,
Hmm. Great. I was going to
and
ask you about your journals.
yeah, it's a journaling technique
Yeah.
um, where you write for 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And what you do is you write three lists. One is all the childhood events that come to your mind that you feel embarrassed or guilty or shameful or sad, all those big and negative emotions that you don't want to feel. You write a
Yeah.
list of all the events in your childhood or young adult years that have happened.
Hmm.
And then you write another column of current stresses. So
Yeah.
anything going on in your life at that current moment that equally invokes those big negative emotions that you don't want to deal with. And you write a list of all your personality traits.
Yeah.
So there's quite common ones in these chronic conditions of perfectionism, people pleaser,
Yeah.
a goodist, having a
Yeah.
very strong inner critic. And I wrote those three lists, and then for 20 minutes in an inner child voice, I
Yes.
wrote about one of the topics. And the inner child voice is, as opposed to a logical adult voice that thinks about the point and thinks about it logically, it's a
Yeah.
very the inner child voice darts around these subjects and
Yeah.
really lets out the emotions and says things that might not be socially acceptable, and you can
Abs-
really rage on the page and let
Yeah.
out all those emotions that have been built up
Yeah.
throughout your life that you haven't had a safe space to let them out.
Mm.
And that journaling technique, it was really, really good.
Fabulous. Yeah. No, that's really good. So you just did that every day then for how long again before you noticed a difference from that?
Well, at the time I was improving every day,
Right.
and this was, Gary liked to call it the glue of the recovery, so that
Okay.
I wouldn't get ill again.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so I'd do it once or twice a day, 20 minutes of journal speak, followed by 10 minutes of meditation after that. And
Brilliant.
after you write this journal, you scrunch it up and throw it away so no one
Yeah.
else can ever read it.
Yes.
And there was a lot of stuff that I'd write in the journal that I didn't realize I'd repressed. There was a lot of emotions that I hadn't dealt with.
Mm.
And it can feel quite, it's hard to do it justice because I was so debilitated. It was such a horrible illness.
Yeah.
And people ask me how I got better, and I have to give justice to a little 20-minute journaling practice. it's difficult, but understanding that repressed emotions can be really powerful and cause these very debilitating biological symptoms and sensations like pain or fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely. And therefore, the more we can actually express and acknowledge those, we don't need any symptoms to hold that back in. So it is just literally stream of consciousness allowing things to come out. Absolutely. Oh, that's wonderful. I was just going to ask you that next step. So, okay, did you do any journaling or anything? Or what else was there anything else as well that you found helpful?
Well, I did that journaling for almost 2 months, at least every day, or sometimes twice a day, until eventually I let everything out. There was almost nothing left to write. And I was feeling better and better. I was increasing my activity. I wasn't having any crashes. My symptoms were fading. So it was a really nice time, actually, being able to recover and get my health back.
Yes, of course. And out of interest, do you still use journaling every now and again, or any mindfulness or meditation, anything like that?
Yeah, occasionally I journal speak again if something comes up.
Yeah.
But I have my health back. I'm living a full life now.
Yeah.
I don't need to meditate and journal speak as much as I was while I was recovering and still feeling symptoms.
Yeah, but you now at least have those tools so that you know that if you need them, then you've got them there. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
So what does life look like now?
I'm working full time. I'm returning to training for my freestyle skiing. So gym twice a week, training at a local dry slope twice a week, doing gymnastics to help my aerial awareness, as well as working a 9 to 5. It's a placement year, so it's to do with my degree.
Right. Okay.
So busy life and no symptoms.
Fabulous. Fabulous. So busy life, but aware now, understanding, so that, because if you're just sort of busy and not having any time for you, then, things can build up. But with that awareness, you understand that, so you can jump in before anything does. And take time for you. Has your self-care improved out of interest?
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that came up in my journaling was that really strong inner critic, where I wouldn't allow myself rest or time to relax and taking a step back. I was so focused on all my goals, on progress and being productive every day and doing my uni work and pushing my skiing and just filling my time and never having a rest day. So the journal speak really helped understand why that inner critic was there and how to make it a little bit more quiet.
Yeah, great. So improve self-care and awareness of personality traits that create so much self-induced stress is helpful as well, isn't it? And presumably now with that awareness, you're able to not get to the point where you're creating so much stress for yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Fabulous. Well, congratulations and well done. And thank you so much for offering to share your story, because you did, didn't you? You were really reaching out and just saying, I want to share this so that to help other people. So I know this will help so many people. So thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you. SIRPA promotes the science behind what I did to recover. And it's really good that it's getting out there mainstream, even if it isn't there at the moment for chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah, no, slowly but surely. And in the last year or two, we've really noticed an improvement in getting out there for the chronic fatigue syndrome and the other fatigue conditions, as well as chronic pain. So it's going in the right direction. So thank you so much, Jay.
Thank you, Georgie.